Roll call.
Ms. Deeroff.
Here.
Mr. Hemingway.
Here.
Ms. Hogan.
Present.
Ms. Nyman.
Here.
Mrs. Scott.
Here.
Mr. Updegrove.
Here.
Mr. Zawada.
Here.
Mr. Brophy. Absent. Mr. Panarello.
Here. Pledge of Allegiance, moment of silence. Previous executive sessions, there was none. Now we have Scott Rath, President of Boyertown Midget Baseball League, is going to do a presentation.
Hello, everybody. Oh, that's loud. There, back up. My name is Scott Rath. I am the president of Boyertown Midget League Baseball. I've been president for about 12 years and involved in the organization about 18. And I'm just here to give a presentation about Mackey Field. If you could, next slide, please. So just to give you a little history of Boyertown Baseball, we are a 501c nonprofit. We were incorporated in 1951. Our age groups go from the age of 4 all the way up to age 18. We are affiliated with 2 adult leagues, so even after the age of 18, you can still play some baseball around here. Nationally, we are affiliated with Babe Ruth, Cal Ripken, and Connie Mack. Cal Ripken is our from 5 to 12 age, and we've been very successful. We've won very many district travel tournaments for them, and last year we came in second in states, and the year before that we actually won states for the 9U age group. So we've done very well for Ripken. The older kids play in the Babe Ruth and Connie Mack organizations, and they also have a chance to play in like a playoff situation. Our major time frame is spring. That's our major season, but we also have our fall season where we have kids that play baseball. We have approximately 700 kids that go through our season. And our numbers every year have been going up. So we've been doing a pretty good job getting kids to enjoy the baseball game. Can you go, please? Thank you. Just little details about us working with the schools. So I've been, like I said, been president for about 12 years. We've had a great relationships with the schools. Our main contact, besides the local principals and administrations at each of the elementary schools and middle schools, is Mr. Palladino. He's been incredible to work with. If he needs something, he just gives us a call. We help him. If we need something, we give him a call, and if he can help us, he does. He is definitely there to help with the kids, and I can't tell you how many times that we have just worked together without any issues whatsoever. So he has been a true asset to our organization. Just so that you guys understand some of the things that we do for the schools too. We have installed 2 new backstops at the local elementary, Washington being one, and Boyertown Elementary, the front field. We've installed them. Whenever the school needs dirt for the softball or baseball fields, and they request it through us, we always give them dirt for their fields. During the season, we do maintain every field that we use. And that would include the elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, and so forth. We also share equipment with the high school. So we have what's called a Smithco. We have 3 of them actually, and they allow infield dirt to be moved around in a more efficient way. They actually just use them this fall to push dirt around at the fields, and we just drop them off and they can use them as much as they want. And we've also purchased over the years several batting cages for the schools. So I can't say how much we appreciate the schools and what they do for us and the relationship that we have. It's invaluable. Next slide, please. So the real reason why I'm here today is just to give you a little bit update about Mackey Field. So Mackey Field is located at the community park. If when you pull into the park, it's on the left side. It's been closed now for 2 years. Usually, in the past, the 7th grade West team would actually use that field for their practices and games. We worked this, and this is again, we worked with Mr. Palladino to rearrange the schedule so that we could close it, and you're going to see a reason why. We have actually teamed together with the Rotary Club, Boyertown Rotary Club, and Lions Club to start this project. It's been a project that BNBL has been trying to do for the last couple of years since I've been here. If you ever go to the community park, you will notice that, it's a great place to go. They have, the Rotary Club and Lions Club and other organizations have put in the walking trail. They have a discus course, the pickleball courts, the playground for all. And now they're going to have a very high-end baseball field there. Just a little fact is Boyertown Rotary Club donated the field back in 1966. As we were doing our renovations, we actually found a headstone. Nobody knew. So it was kind of cool to see that, and that'll be displayed once we do all the renovations. Next slide. So Mackey Field was named after a person named Donald Dux Mackey. He was a longtime supporter and coach. He has passed away since. But he did introduce several of the aspects to Boyertown baseball, Junior Legion baseball, our U12 Black Bear teams, and others. The one thing that his son, Chris Mackey, is on our board. He played Legion baseball here. The one thing he always said, that his dad said that if he won the lottery, and that this is where the quote comes from, the first thing I would do is build a stadium for the kids and then enjoy what's left, if anything. Well, that dream is coming true. Next slide. So if you look on the right side, that's our diagram of Mackey Field. Mackey Field will be for the ages of 13 to 15. And the community is also going to be able to use this as well. And I'll go into a little bit of what Mackey Field will contain. The picture's a little hard to see, but we'll go into all the different aspects of what the field will contain. We worked very close with the community and private organizations and local organizations as well. And with the support of grant writing, local businesses and organizations, private funding, several key individuals in the BNBL family, we were able to raise the entire money for this field. This is one of probably the largest projects you will see at the Boyertown Park. Next slide, please. So some of the renovations that we have, we do have brick dugouts, and in each of the brick dugouts, which they are ground level dugouts, which means you go down and you're looking at ground level as the kids are sitting there like a major league dugout, they will have 88 bathrooms in there. And those 88 bathrooms will also be available to the public. So if you're walking on the walking trail and there's a baseball game there, you can gladly use the restrooms as well. We'll have a full digital scoreboard that'll be out there in right center field. So if you think about when I say full digital, go to the Reading Phillies game, it's going to look like that. Not that big, so we don't have that much money, but it'll be huge, and it'll be all digitized that we can program it the way we want it to. So we will be able to put if there's a community announcements, which we're working with the borough on, they want to put something up about like Earth Day, we'll be able to scroll those messages around and so forth. Local businesses we can support with messages about specials they have going on, or if we're running a tournament, we can put up like eat at X place and so forth. We will have new LED lighting throughout the field, which will cut costs which will cut our costs in our lighting thing. We'll have a fully stocked concession stand, which means we'll be serving chicken fingers, fries, burgers, whatever you want. We'll have a new sound system, Wi-Fi for the park, security cameras for monitoring. I did talk about the dugouts. We will have batting cages and bullpens for each team on each side. And behind the backstop, we will have stadium seating that will sit about 120 people. We will also have a press box that's up on the first baseline, and much, much more. Next field, please. Slide. There we go. That's a little bit better slide. So if you see the right where home plate is, you can see there's a gray area. That'll be the stadium seating. The red boxes are the dugouts, and the bullpens are past there. We are going to have a grass infield. Right now, Mackey Field is all dirt, but we will be putting irrigation in and putting a grass infield in. We will have fencing that goes all the way around, and in the outfield, it'll be an 18 high foot fence so that to block all the balls, and then the fences will come down and meet the dugouts. Next slide, please. So here are some pictures. That is our first base dugout, so you can see how the dugout kind of goes down, and the kids will be able to lean on top of there'll be a rail in there, kind of like a major league dugout. If you've ever been in one, it'll be really cool for them. There's a fence that goes there so they won't be hit by a ball, in case people ask. The press box is up top that you'll be able to go entrance through the back, and the ADA bathroom, which you'll see a picture of that, will be on the left. Next slide, please. So this is a picture of the ADA bathroom. This is the outside entrance that you'll be able to go through, and so that's why anybody can. We made it on the outside rather than the inside so that we could have it public to everybody. Next slide. This is this is where the seating is going to be. So that's the backstop wall, and then behind that is going to be the wall for like the seating. So there'll be 4 rows. The first row will be handicap accessible, and then the next one will be stadium seating that we're going to be doing. Next slide, please. This is just a different angle of that same area, but you can see the brick. We have all the brick up. You can see the third base dugout. You can kind of see where the brick is, and it's like, and then there'll be brick around the back end too. We just haven't gotten to that part yet. Next slide, please. This is just another angle just to show you. If you see those couple of the big round cement blocks there, or round cement holes, that's where our poles are going to be to hold the netting that'll be there. So when they pitch or they foul a ball, if it goes into the netting. Didn't want anybody to think we're not putting anything there. Next slide. That is a sample of the fence that is going up all around the outfield. So as you can see, it's each section is about, I think it's 8 foot high, so it's a 16-foot high fence. It actually might be 20 foot high. Next slide, please. And then this is kind of a picture of the whole thing. So you can see on the left, there is one of the new light poles are up. The LED lights aren't in there yet, but you can see the 2 brick dugouts there with the press box up top. The grading will happen probably next spring, and then we'll be laying sod in the infield. And then what we're hoping is, so everything right now is on track. What we're hoping is that we will be opening up our first game for the Junior Legion State Prep Tournament that we just got from the state in mid-July, I think is going to be the first one. So, and that will be our Boyertown Bear Paws. They're kind of like 13s and 14s will be in that tournament. I think that's it, right? Yep. Okay. So, we do have a Facebook page, Boyertown Major League Baseball, and we're also up on our website is www.boyertownmbl.com. We do a very good job of posting how this project's going. You can go on there and sign up for alerts, and it'll tell you how it's going. Any new things going in, like we'll have the other light pole hopefully in this week, and then we'll be doing the inside of the bathrooms over the winter with the concession stand. One last thing in closing, I mean, this project could not have been done without the community. I've been here for like 49 years. I moved out for 2 years. And I'll tell you, it's a very special place. Without the local businesses, without the people in this community, this project never would have happened. And we've been trying to get it off the ground. And last year is when we decided to really, we said we're not going to get it started unless we take something out. So we took something out, and now we're starting. So, but I just wanted to say thank you to the board and the school for working with us and having me here today. Also for the community and the support that they have given is just, I mean, I can't tell you how lucky we are to have this type of community. If you have any questions, I'll gladly answer them for you.
Not a question, just a comment. I know really nothing about baseball, but this looks really wonderful and beautiful. But what I do know is that it sounds like Mr. Mackey was quite an inspirational person, and putting his name up and having it continue to serve as inspiration for the community and all the kids that get to play there is a really beautiful thing. So thank you to you and to your team who, worked so hard to make this happen. So thank you.
I get to multitask, so the calendar is a little small to look at up there, but I just wanted to give a quick overview of the calendar conversation that will come up a little bit later on in the board meeting. Typically, we address the calendar sometime the tail end of November, anywhere in December to the beginning part of January, until Mary Beth and I have the opportunity to kind of sit down and compile the amount of student days, the amount of instructional hours, the amount of the days that are contractually obligated for our association, and it is quite a daunting endeavor until you can kind of formulate the information on here. We seek out information from our district leadership team to determine what in fact is appropriate with respect to the days that are attributed on the calendar. So the calendar that is going to be presented tonight is really a reflection of a very similar calendar to the calendar year that we are currently in. The days are off by, I believe, 1 day globally, just because the calendar, the numbers are changed a little bit. But as you can see, we are proposing that the first day of school will be on August 21st. Everybody would ask the question, why do we start so early? One of the big components that goes along with the instructional school year that we take into consideration very strongly is the start of the Berks Career and Technology Center. The Berks Career and Technology Center starts on the 22nd. So typically what happens for any of you in the community that have students that have gone through our senior high, the first day is really kind of a cycle of events. And that cycle of events is everything from students getting acclimated to the building, to acquiring materials, getting devices, to doing all kinds of responsibility things that just take up time. So typically what happens on that very first day at our senior high, which by the way is over 2,000 students, is the students cycle through these kind of required things, so it doesn't necessarily impede a typical instructional day. And then our Berks Career and Technology Center is up and running on that next day. So our kids don't miss any of the opportunities to go along with the Berks Career and Technology Center. So that is why we start where we are proposing the start of the calendar. We also have, prior to that week, typical 2 professional learning days for our professional staff. I'll jump all the way to the tail end of the calendar, and this is the earliest, based upon a calendar that is reflected with these particular days, that the school year could end. Our last week of school is the week of Memorial Day, and that does fall in May, and it is May 31st. Memorial Day is on the 27th of May, and then we have our last week of school, which is early dismissal days, again reflecting the senior high that has final exams. So those days the kids come in, they take their final exams, and that's pretty much what they do during the course of that day. We district-wide have our early dismissal days, and the teachers have professional learning opportunities at the early parts of that week, and then as the week progresses to the tail end, they also have kind of their checkout responsibilities during the course of the year. One highlight of our calendar this year that we would like to propose, we've added a handful of early dismissal days during the course of the year, so that we have at least 1, possibly 2 professional learning opportunities for our teachers. As we have presented back at our November curricular meeting, and as we continue to have dialogue around some of the responsibilities and requirements that are passed on from the Pennsylvania Department of Education, there are more and more things that we are going to be asked to do. A couple things, highlights of new science standards, different incredible responsibilities that are going to change some modifications based upon what some of our instructional practices are. So we've added the professional learning days to focus on the opportunity to build capacity within our instructional staff, as well as to have collaboration for our instructional staff, hopefully at a minimal impact for student instruction, because we're still able to meet the mandated requirements of instructional hours during the course of a year. So on this calendar, it takes a little bit of a different look. I do feel it's a teeny bit cleaner than what we've done in the past. We were able to kind of consolidate some of our some of our highlights on the right-hand side. And one other piece that I like to reflect on is the fact that our elementary and middle schools still work on a trimester basis. So we have our proposed trimester end dates on the right-hand side, and then the high school still works on a quarterly basis. So their quarter end dates, of course, dependent on weather opportunities, that could change the schedule. This year, we've already been blessed to have 2 snow days that have impacted our global calendar. The calendar itself has 3 built-in snow days into the calendar, and one of the things that we will have to reapply for the 2023-2024 school year is for the flexible instructional day process. What's nice about having those flexible instructional days, we exhaust our 3 built-in snow days prior to using our flexible instructional days, but we have 3 built-in snow days, and then we potentially have up to 5 flexible instructional days. So it would take something beyond 8 weather events to change the global calendar. So the calendar itself could predictably stay pretty consistent, but again, you never know what Mother Nature gives to us when we already have 2 snow days before the start of the school year. So this is the calendar presentation. I don't know if Mary Beth, if this is a time to ask any questions or before it comes up for later on the agenda.
For in-service days, are they all going to be half-days now, or will the teachers?
No, so when you look, and I know Mr. Zawada, it's a little difficult to see up there, but when you look at the full red squares, those are full day. Those are no student days. The 2 days in August are days that aren't scheduled for students anyway. We have our professional staff come in the week before the start of our school year, but there are those other days that are added. There's one in October, and there's one in February that are full days. All of the gray triangle blocks are early dismissal days. Mm-hmm. And we would follow our same early dismissal time departure that we've historically done.
And just a little clarification for the November leading up to the Thanksgiving break, those are parent-teacher conferences, and at the elementary level, they are holding conferences in the afternoon of the first 2 days, Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah, the 20th and 21st of November would be the typical evening conferences. And we made the shift in the calendar from a few years back. We used to do a Thursday, and then we used to do a Tuesday, but we decided to make them consecutive days so they fall back to back. So.
Just to piggyback a little bit with what Mr. Stout had referenced, why we do try to start school around the Berks Career and Technology Center. We do have 241 students who are currently enrolled at BCTC this year. And in speaking with Ms. DeNicola, our budget for the Career Center for those students is right about $2 million. So each day that students don't get to access, their education, it does become a little bit compounded. We have a mixed group of students who are BCTC students, students with IEPs, students without IEPs, students with 504 plans. So it's a group who is definitely choosing the Career Center as their way of filling half of their day for education.
Just another quick highlight, the spring break for next year, just because of where the Easter holiday falls, is very early. It's actually in March. This year it's a couple weeks later. So the calendar definitely shifts each year depending on when some of the holiday sessions fall. Mrs. Hogan.
Yeah, so I've heard from a lot of parents concerned about the early start and childcare. So getting out a week early, and then that early week, it impacts the summer camps that they use for childcare. So I guess my question would be, that's a very valid concern, for working parents. Is there any way to still get the BCTC kids where they need to go and have the later, more traditional start date it's like a week early we're starting, right?
We're starting the same exact week. We're proposing to start the same exact
Right.
week that we started this year.
But it's a week earlier than years in the past.
I think it's in line with
Yeah.
the same week.
We're typically, in the years that I've been here, I think this is my 14th year, we've often started that week, but sometimes what we've done is we've had if you take those 2 days that are currently in, that are, my gosh, I need my reading glasses, the 16th and 17th of August, when we have our professional learning days, we've often utilized the very beginning of that week for professional learning days and then brought our students in midweek. And then what happens, we have the teachers kind of kick off, we do our rah-rah day, we do get them acclimated to being back and get everything all set up, and then we've started that week. There have been weeks in the past that we have started the week of before Labor Day, and then that's a very short week. So the kids are only in for a few days, and then they have their 3-day weekend or 4-day weekend right off the bat. And we rotated away from that to start sometime during the course of that week. So over my time, those are the two options that have really been part of that. So we decided to kind of move it to the start of that week, because whether you start on a Monday or you start on a Wednesday, it kind of has the same student impact based upon potential childcare or whatever for that particular week.
Okay.
So in answer to your question, students, the Berks Current Technology bus does show up at Bash.
Bless you.
Students would have to find their way, AM, PM, VOTEC students would have to get themselves to the high school that week, should we not start school or not have transportation picking up all students. It would be an entirely different route to have established for 4 days. If we didn't bring all of the students in at the same time, or if we try to only route for students who are Berks and Berks Career and Technology Center students, I don't believe that that would be just a simple or time efficient or financially efficient way of providing transportation for 4 days.
So we have BCTCs, like some of the students go in the morning and some go in the afternoon. So they're all coming into the high school in the morning, or no? No.
No. So if we wouldn't start school on that Monday or Tuesday, the day that the Career Center opens up, students would have to get themselves to school to catch the bus either for the morning session or for the afternoon session. For the most part, most of our students, I believe, are going in the afternoon. I would have to double check with, no, I know there is a split. I know there is,
There's a
because
split.
when we were working through 2020, 2021, it was very complicated with the
Right.
number of students going back and forth. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
You're
Thanks.
welcome.
So when we're in service, those red days, and there's no school here, how do they get to BCTC?
So every school has a calendar that is set up, and I can't say that for the most part. Yeah, good question. So I would say for October the 9th, that is the Columbus holiday. So almost all schools are closed, including that would be the
That just,
first.
Mary Beth, just to chime in there, that's a countywide in-service
Right.
day. So typically they try to coordinate Berks County events, and a lot of specialists and have the ability to collaborate around the county together.
Right.
That's typically a countywide in-service day.
So then the other day
Is
would.
that also for BCTC? Are those teachers also in service then?
I believe so, Mr.
Yeah.
Panarello, but I'm not completely 100% confident on that.
So then I would believe the only other day, and without having the Career Center calendar right in front of me, I'm not sure if we have coordinated the 16th as a day that they also are using for in-service, because a lot of times we will be looking at both calendars. Typically, the winter break, the spring breaks are very similar.
Okay.
So today, after reading some of the letters, I did reach out to 3 other school districts. Daniel Boone, which is in Berks, Perk Valley, and Upper Perk. All 3 schools start the week later. Daniel Boone's, basically, for the technology center, it's up to the parents to get their kids to that school that week. We're looking at, for roughly a little less than 300 students, we're talking about 5,000 families to make changes and bring them in early, a week earlier than normal. So, I mean, if we're using the concern of basically the VOTEC students, I'm sorry, I call them VOTEC, that's the area I grew up in, we're talking about affecting other people, family lives. And, we're just seem to getting earlier and earlier and earlier. I mean, when I went to school, we went at the day after Memorial Day, and that's when everybody went to school. And, after the holiday, because we're bringing them in, like you said, Monday is not even open, and then we start the school, and it's just, they're not really even getting into the gist of things until basically after the holiday. So my suggestion is possibly we should move it forward again and try to appease, because of the cost of daycare or care for these parents. Now everybody's working, 2 parents are working almost every family to get through right now, and I don't think, and we do have a percentage of those students that do drive up there. They're not all taking the bus. So like I said, the 3 immediate schools in our area do not start this early.
I just to add to that conversation, Mr. Zawada, in anticipation of questions around this particular topic, I was able to run attendance data for this particular year to kind of see how many kids were absent during those first few weeks of school, and then pick a random week just to kind of see what our attendance is on those particular days, just to see if it impacted anything. And I'll run some numbers by you quickly, and I'm just going to share them, so it might be a little bit difficult to process. But our first day of school this past year was the 22nd of August. 91 total students were absent. Tuesday was 115, Wednesday was 130, Thursday was 174, and Friday was 211. And that's a district of almost 7,000 students. That's how many students were actually absent, accumulating between our buildings. On the second week of school, which would have been on the 29th, on Monday, we had 278 students absent. We had 303 students on Tuesday, 257 on Wednesday, and 367 on Thursday. We were off on that particular Friday, so there was the long weekend. And then coming back from Memorial Day, which is, thinking that, okay, everybody's kind of ready to come back, we had 403 students absent on that particular Tuesday, 304 students absent on Wednesday, 272 students absent on Thursday, and 344 students absent on that Memorial Day week, which was the worst week of the first 3 weeks of school. And then we picked a random week. Randomly, we picked October 17th to check attendance, just to kind of get a pulse on just a generic week of the school year. And we had 380 students absent on Monday, 323 on Tuesday, 281 on Wednesday, 311 on Thursday, and 439 on Friday, which, by the way, was the worst out of all the days we polled. So I just wanted to see if the pulse of absenteeism on those first 3 to 4 weeks of school, plus a random week, was any kind of... This was the current year we're in, and it models this particular calendar. To Mrs. Torsh's point, we're starting on the same day. It's just a different day of the month, but it's the same day in the cycle of the month. And really, our worst days of attendance for those first 3 weeks of school were really the week after Memorial Day, starting on that Tuesday. Labor Day, I'm sorry. Yeah, Labor Day, on Labor Day. I apologize. Mrs. Nyman.
Okay, I have comments after this, but for your attendance part, how many of those were COVID related?
We don't code them in the system anymore that they would be COVID related, so I don't know that.
So some of those could have been COVID related, and that throws the numbers totally out there. So I'm not in agreement with that. I'm kind of going with Mr. Sawada over there. I remember when we started the day after Labor Day.
Labor Day.
And all of a sudden they wanted to go the week before. Well, now we're 2 weeks before, and it's affecting families' lives. People still go away those 2 weeks. So going another week ahead, I'm tired of that. But also, on the half days, we have now 20 of them. How much learning actually gets done on those half days? Honestly. I mean, parents are uprooted because, as Mr. Sawada said, we have families that both parents have to work. So now somebody has to take off to take care of the kids. They're the tax-paying residents, and they're the ones being affected by this. So also on that, do the kids go to VOTEC those days, on the half days? Mm-hmm. If they do, we're supplying transportation for the afternoon. And now, so something's not right here. So I'm not in favor of doing this at all. Not at all. We need to go back at least 1 week. Be fair to the kids. But on another point, our facilities get used in June by several people. Or how's that going to affect them for using our facilities?
I'm not
People
following
that
the
want to rent out our facilities. So now the custodial staff won't be there, so they won't be able to rent it out in June unless we're going to change the policy.
For the people that are looking to utilize the high school auditorium, there's not a policy, but for those that are looking to use the auditorium, they would be able to do so for their function. I wouldn't cut into that ability for rental use.
Well, I'm glad for that because that's income for us, but I'm still not in favor of starting 2 weeks early. I'm sorry. It's out of control. People still have plans to go on vacations. People have plans for their kids to be in camp. This is not, we're not looking at the whole picture here, sorry.
You may have already answered this, so I apologize if it's, did you say students, like, our VOTEC students get dropped off, so if, like, afternoon students, would they get dropped off at Bash or at their bus stops?
At Bash.
So they all come back here?
Are you talking about the first week of school?
No,
Should
like
we-
on a regular week.
On regular days, they get brought back. The VOTEC bus always brings students back to the high school, and then they pick up their bus that would take them home,
Oh, so they're coming back before dismissal?
or right after dismissal.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. That's what I-
There's always their bus is different. The bus to and from Berks Career and Technology Center is different than their bus to their home.
Okay, so then when we have half days, are the morning kids only going, or all kids are, how does that work?
All students have access to the career center regardless of us having a half day. Sometimes students will attend, sometimes they won't.
So when we have half days, we bus them to VOTEC, and then we bus them back here, and they have to get transportation from here?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, that brings me to another thing. On our calendar, how does that go with the VOTEC schedule? Like if we're in session one day, are they there or are they on a half day or are they closed some of our days?
Without having their calendar right in front of me, I don't know how our calendars exactly match up, and for that I apologize. I didn't prepare myself to bring that with me. So I can get that answer for you and get back to you.
Well, if that's the case, I'd like to table this until we get all the information.
But not a problem.
Is that a formal motion?
Yes.
This is just a presentation.
Okay.
I'd like to throw out a suggestion, and Mrs. Nyman, I certainly hear your specific concerns, but just to I know the conversation that Mr. Zawada had earlier about 300 students and the percentage of total students in our district. I certainly would have the ability, if this was a tabled item, to push out a survey to the community for, I don't know, the 21st, 28th, poll the community and see what would be something that's more preferable. I could probably have that data by the weekend, have something pushed out tomorrow, give it till Friday to hear that information, collect the data, come back and present it to the board and say 60-40, 70-30, 80-20, 90-10, because honestly, Mrs. Nyman, we've never asked. And I know we hear a lot of feedback based upon the calendar, but I don't know, is it the consistent trend of the perception of the community, or is it just people that are willing to speak up about it? I honestly don't know that. Certainly don't create this calendar to present any kind of controversy. We want to try to meet the educational needs of all of our students to the best of our ability. So I could absolutely have a survey pushed out to our community, and just if the board wants to table it and have some parameters, I could put that in the survey, get it pushed out, and make a determination and come back with that data.
I would like to make the motion then that we table it until you get that information.
The only thing I would ask, and I don't know if I have the ability where I'm standing to ask that, but I would like to know if the parameters of the survey would be the 21st and 28th. Because I think it wouldn't be in the best interest to put out like 5 choices. I think it really needs to be probably one of 2 choices, and
No,
we
you're
either start
correct.
on the
You're correct.
21st or
Those
the
2 dates.
28th, because if we start the Wednesday of that first week, in my mind, and you could correct me, you're still bringing kids back to school, so to your argument about taking a vacation or whatever, you may take a vacation through Tuesday to start school on Wednesday, but you're really not taking advantage of the whole week. So I would like to suggest that if we're going to put out information to our community, we would think about the 21st and 28th as the 2 options.
I would go for that. At least another week later would be a big help, I think, to some
Yep.
people.
And I'm like, literally, those are the only 2 choices. If, you have X student in the school, would you choose to start on the 21st or the 28th? Click, submit.
I think we can move on. We have a formal motion. We have a formal motion. Who seconds it?
Zawada.
Ron seconds it.
Okay, just as a clarification, there's generally no discussion on a motion to table. My question is, we don't really have an action item.
It's down further.
Oh, it is down further. Oh, okay. Okay. So then we can do
But
it.
it's on
Okay.
the consent agenda.
Okay.
No, it's on the itemized.
Is it?
It's on itemized.
So we could engage in a motion to table, but there's generally no discussion on a motion to table other than a question of clarification.
So the official motion should be in regards to table it, in regards to results from the survey from administration. She wants to clarify that. You know,
Now I'm confused. What is the motion?
The motion was to table it so that we're not voting on it tonight.
Yes, that's all I
so
understand.
we need to give him direction.
Yeah, we have to give it direction.
Not necessarily, I'm just saying the motion that is on the table is a motion to table.
Okay, I will change the motion to be, to table it as of now until Mr. Stout can put out a survey for either the 21st or the 28th to the families of the community.
Should be no discussion information, should it? There's not
Do it
the
on
place
the lower
to do it.
section.
I have a question, by doing that
Go
to
ahead,
the
second.
28th, you're still moving the kids that go to BCTC, that they're not going to the school that week, if we're not going to school, unless we'd have to provide transportation for those kids.
We're still
Somebody, yeah, there you go.
we still have to provide transportation even on the half days, so it doesn't really matter. We're still providing it.
And again, when I talked to Daniel Boone, basically, that particular week, it's the same thing. We have to get the parents have to get the kids to the high school. So, they're not relying on a bus picking them up all over the district.
We don't have a second to the revised motion.
We're still discussing that.
If you're not supposed to discuss.
Well, let's move on. It's tabled.
Okay. It's not tabled.
No, it's not.
We have to take a vote on it.
Well,
You
we
seconding it, Lisa?
I'm confused about
Jeff
what
seconded.
happened.
Oh, Jeff seconded it.
Okay, so are we?
Oh, he did?
Not the amended one.
Not the amended one. That's what I'm just saying. So we technically do not have a motion on the table.
I'll second the amendment.
Okay, so the motion is to table the proposed action on the agenda until such time as the district administration can perform the surveys as indicated.
That's how I understand it.
Okay, did we have public comment yet?
No.
No, we would have to have public comment on this action.
The public comments after.
I understand, but because we're voting on a motion that is different than the agenda, that it'd be now appropriate to have public comment.
I have a
We
clarifying.
can bring it up on.
No, you have a motion.
Well, we
on
You have a motion on the table,
it. Can't do that.
so you need to have public comment.
She has a clarification on the survey.
Okay.
I have a clarifying question about the survey. So I don't know if I should just not ask it or what I should do.
You can ask a clarification question, but before we vote on this, the members of the public will need to have an opportunity to speak.
It's about the survey itself, though.
Yeah, I think we should wait till we got to.
Okay, yeah. But the survey is subordinate to the motion. Would your vote be impacted based upon the way that question is asked? Okay, then ask the question.
So my question was, for the surveying the parents or whatever, will we be making it clear that we're surveying them and that the answers impact the BCTC students? Like that we're serving them, but the start date could impact students. Do you know what I mean? So that they understand why we're asking. That's what I'm curious
Is that-
about.
How you gonna
Why
word
we're
the
asking?
survey is what she's asking.
Say, what do you mean?
Well, I think that we're asking if parents are more apt to want to start school on the August 21st or August 28th, not for any other reason. My reasoning for presenting a calendar to the school board for a start date of the 21st was so that I was inclusive of all of our students who participate at Boyertown Area School District and that everyone was able to access their programming.
Right.
But I don't know that that necessarily is the question, that is the reason we're surveying parents. The reason we're surveying parents is because many of you are, talking about other cons of starting early, that have to do with ending early, which could impact, parents and them not, being able to have set camps for themselves, or the fact that, they would like to continue to have vacation, their summer vacation extended into a later week of August. That's my understanding of why this is being moved for more information.
I think though it's an important piece for parents to consider. If I were considering it as a parent, which I am a parent, I would want to know that piece. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like for me, I don't know. I just thought thinking about it from my parent hat, I would want to know why I'm being asked this question.
We
I
can
guess.
certainly phrase the question and say, that we proposed a calendar to begin on the 21st, so that all BCTC students would be able to pick up their transportation like every other student, starting on the 22nd when they started their program. However, we understand that, there's different concerns related to starting. Yeah, so we can phrase it properly. We can phrase it and we can,
Just to give
Yep.
people the information.
yes.
Okay, I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
we can
Thank
do
you.
that.
Thanks.
No problem.
So we can continue on. Should we just take a official vote? We can vote no, so that this motion and second for now is closed. And then we'd have public comment, then have her go through the agenda.
No, you have to have public comment before the vote.
I got you. Can they retract their motion?
Can always retract a motion if both parties agree.
Would both of you agree to retract your motion so we can continue?
Yes.
I'll do it, but, I'm hearing from the parents, and parents are angry about this.
Okay, well, that's what we want to do, so if you retract, we can hear from the parents. Is that okay?
They might not be here.
Well, you'll have an opportunity to present a motion to table when we get to that itemized section, I think, just to make it flow a little easier, I think is the suggestion.
So the second was pulled, and you're pulling yours?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're moving on. ECIU report.
No report. There was no meeting in December. We'll have a meeting in the next few weeks, so I'll have more to report in February.
ECTC, Raj?
Yes, I want to acknowledge some of our students up there, Zoe Yancey for first place in nail care, Aiden first, for building construction first, and this is for District 4 skills kids that was done. They placed first place, a Matthew Hudak in carpentry first place, an Autumn Shovel for dental assistant second place, and Aiden Newman in diesel equipment technology first place, and a Nicholas Michaels for electrical contract construction wiring first place, and an Andrew Muller Electrical teamwork, first place, and Haley Gardner, Boyertown, well, these are Boyertown students, medical health profession, first place. And they were in the skills category, and they all got first place.
Impressive. Ms. Denicola, presentation.
Tonight's presentation will just supply a district overview of the key items that we utilize when we build our budget. It'll also provide some key budgetary dates for the 23-24 budget cycle. This is just an overview presentation. That doesn't mean that budget work is not currently being done. Budget work is continually being done. This is just an opening presentation to give you an idea of what goes into building the budgets. I'll provide the district overview, provide the key budgetary dates for 23-24, talk through our 23-24 cost drivers, the Act 1 index, and then provide a few closing comments. The district overview, we have 6 elementary schools which house 2,794 students, 2 middle schools which house 1,579 students, and 1 high school with 2,087 students. Total students educated in our buildings is 6,460. We have additional students educated in our buildings of pre-K students, 48 currently, homeschool students, 318 students, and virtual academy, 71 students. These numbers are all as of our October 1st enrollment. So total students educated, 6,897 students. Of that, 1,538 students are special education students, and of that 1,538, 105 of those students receive special ed services outside of the district. From a personnel perspective, professional staff, we have 467 teachers. We currently have approximately 11 long-term substitutes. That would be substitutes that are filling in for a long-term leave of a teacher. Full-time 12-month support staff, we have 95 employees. Part-time support staff, they would be people that either work a part-time hourly schedule or don't work a full 12-month year. That would be 85 employees. There are 31 administrators and 9 support supervisory employees. We utilize other service providers to provide services to students. Those include Kelly Services, where we get our substitute teachers, CRESS, where we get our paraprofessional support. We also use many service providers for mental health and special education support services, and we use some contracted security as well. The key budgetary dates for the 23-24 general fund budget. By January 26, 2023, we would adopt a resolution stating that the district will not raise taxes above its index. It's important to note that as of the preliminary calculations, the district does not qualify for any exceptions. So passing that resolution, we wouldn't have the ability to raise taxes above the index anyway. The proposed final budget has to be adopted by May 31st, and then the final budget by June 30th. The key cost drivers of the district remain to be personnel, salaries, and benefits. The PSERS rate, the retirement contribution rate for 2023-24 is 34%. That's a drop from the current year rate of 35.26%. That would save the district roughly $6 for every $10,000 in compensatory salary paid for retirement purposes. So that was a positive that we are seeing for 23-24. The salary cost for teachers is not yet determined what that increase will be. That the teacher contract expires this year, and through negotiations, the actual rate for those salary increases will be determined. That's not known yet at this point. Healthcare costs continue to be a concern for all schools, all businesses. So we're watching that, and we will continually watch our experience to see what we will need to be budgeting there. So our preliminary budget numbers that we share, they may fluctuate from a healthcare perspective if we see our experience start to improve. Charter school costs continue to be a challenge for all districts across the state. I will say, however, that in the 2021 school year, we had approximately 375 students enrolled in external cyber and brick and mortar charter schools. As of the October 1 enrollment, we were only at about 240. So we've seen a large number of students come back into our buildings, which has been quite beneficial. The mandated services of special education and related services, they continue to be a cost driver of the district. And then operations and improvement of our facilities is always a cost driver. So the budget is largely based upon Act 1. The real estate tax increase is real estate taxes are a large part of our budget. That is governed by Act 1, which was established in June 26 and then slightly modified under Act 25 of 2011. What Act 1 does is it limits the school district's ability to increase taxes without a voter referendum or other exception. And as I said before, based upon preliminary calculations, we don't qualify for exceptions. This Act 1 also allows the district to pass the resolution that I spoke of earlier, where the district agrees not to raise taxes above their adjusted index. In the 21-22 budget year, 427 out of 500 PA schools adopted what's called the Act 1 resolution. For 2023-24 budget year, Boyertown's adjusted index is 5%. The statewide base index is 4.1%. What that means is we can raise our taxes without exceptions or referendum up to 5%. The budget development will continue. We will share ongoing updates and financial information throughout the budget cycle through June 30th. There was something that occurred this afternoon related to bond refunding. On May 24th, 2022, you may remember the board approved a parameters resolution that authorized our investment advisors and bond underwriters to continue to monitor the market and bind the district to savings should savings be available. I'm happy to report that as of today, refunding savings were secured for the 2014 bond issue. What that means for the district is that there will be net cash flow savings of approximately $2.1 million over the life of the bond issue. The life of the bond issue goes through 2044. There's about $300,000 the district will save in this fiscal year. There is about $50,000 that the district will save per year from 2024 to 2036, and about $170,000 per year in the outlying years of 2037 to 2044. So we continually look with our investment advisors for bond refunding opportunities, and as bonds become available to be refunded, they test the market and see where they can generate savings. So that's where we currently sit. That was a positive. Our bond advisors, our investment advisors, will do a presentation for the board at the next meeting, just to kind of give you an overview of how this refunding occurred and how it closed. These numbers are much larger than what we were seeing in November and December. The numbers were a lot lower, so this was a very positive refunding. That's it.
On the refunding, what's it gonna cost us to do that?
We don't have the final numbers broke out because this all happened this afternoon. They will be getting all the documents of the final numbers to us throughout the remainder of this week, and they'll share that at the next board meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Can you send us a copy of that information, please?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
So this is public comment period number 1, and no one has signed up. So this time we're going to be asking for an approval of minutes for December 13th, 2022 Board of School Directors meeting.
There's a lot of motions.
Nyman seconds.
It's a lot of motions, 9 seconds.
Any comment?
Comments? No.
Ms. Deeroff,
Yes.
Mr. Hemingway,
Yes.
Mrs. Hogan,
Yes.
Ms. Nyman,
Yes.
Mrs. Scott,
Yes.
Mr. Updegrove,
Yes.
Mr. Zawada,
Yes.
Mr. Panarello.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Superintendent's consent agenda, I am going to be looking for the Board of School Directors to approve the 2023 fall athletic bids as presented.
Hogan motions.
Ms. Deeroff,
Yes.
Mr. Hemingway,
Yes.
Mrs. Hogan,
Yes.
Ms. Nyman,
Yes.
Mrs. Scott,
Yes.
Mr. Updegrove,
Yes.
Mr. Zawada,
Yes.
Mr. Pinarello.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Under the superintendent's itemized agenda, I was looking for the Board of School Directors to approve the 23-24 Boyertown School District calendar as presented. However, I believe we're going to have a change in that motion. Do you want to repeat what you had before, Mr. Sultanic?
It was not my motion.
I know.
I don't know if there is a motion of the board right now. It would not be appropriate for me to articulate a motion at this point.
I still want to go back and make that motion to table the calendar until Mr. Thank you, can put out a survey for us for the 21st to the 28th and seeing what the consent of the parents are,
Okay.
just for those dates.
Okay, so because I understand the sensitivity of this issue, it's not just him issuing the survey, is getting the survey results back and analyzed.
Correct.
Is that?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So the motion is to table the action until such time as a survey is going to be performed by the district administration, and the survey results are come back and analyzed by the administration and presented to the board. That's a motion.
Yes.
Zawada seconds.
Now you have a second.
Zawada
Now,
seconds.
that is technically a motion to table. There is no discussion on this. I would ask the secretary to do a roll call vote. A vote of yes is to table the motion. A vote of no is not to table the motion. If the motion isn't tabled, we will end up voting on the motion as presented.
Ms. Deeroff,
No.
Mr. Hemingway,
No.
Ms. Hogan,
Yes.
Ms. Nyman,
Yes.
Mrs. Scott,
Yes.
Mr. Updegrove,
Yes.
Mr. Zawada,
Yes.
Mr. Pinarello.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, next, I will be looking for the Board of School Directors to approve the 2 overnight trips as presented.
Nyman moves.
Hogan seconds.
Ms. Deeroff,
Yes.
Mr. Hemingway,
Yes.
Mrs. Hogan,
Yes.
Ms. Nyman,
Yes.
Mrs. Scott,
Yes.
Mr. Updegrove,
Yes.
Mr. Zawada,
Yes.
Mr. Pinarello.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next, the administration recommends the Board of School Directors to approve the following personnel actions, including resignations, employment appointments, change of status, leave of absences, and supplemental contacts as presented.
Nyman moves.
Hogan seconds.
I'm concerned over resignations, especially with our food service workers, some of our paraprofessionals, which I know we don't per se hire ourselves, it's through Crest or through, I forget the other one. Kelly, thank you. Because I've been hearing a lot of complaints about our wages, and I'm concerned. I mean, we're losing some good people here. So I think we need to take a look at that.
Ms. Deeroff,
Yes.
Mr. Hemingway,
Yes.
Mrs. Hogan,
Yes.
Ms. Nyman,
Yes.
Mrs. Scott,
Yes.
Mr. Updegrove,
Yes.
Mr. Zawada,
Yes.
Mr. Pinarello.
Yes.
Motion carries.
We have public comment period number 2. First up is Donnie Savage.
Thanks to Mrs. Denicola and the leadership team for the budget presentation tonight. That was a lot more information than I've seen recently, and we saw some great news as well. So thanks for that. And I do hope, as a representative of your taxpayer base, that we see a lot more conversation as you consider the budget. We need to figure out if we're adequately funding our district. We know that the state isn't, even as they mandate increasing expenditures for us. So unfortunately, our local tax base is left to make up the shortcomings, and you need to think about not just this year, but the years into the future and what the impact of what your decisions will be. Some of the things that you might want to understand really well are the increasing costs of special education, how they've been trending, and what they're expecting to be in the future. And of course, you'll be monitoring what's happening with the teacher contract and what you can expect there, as well as the revenues expected from the state. Unfortunately, we often don't know that until after you have to pass the budget. Also, things like curricular changes could require changes in funding for materials or staffing. So there's a lot of questions to ask. I've probably talked to you guys about this before, so I'll end it there, but good start. Thank you. Bye.
Barb Furman's up next.
Barb Furman, New Hanover Township. I'm going to touch on 3 points of science and process that I would like this administration and board to bring up in the form of research and report in the coming months. They impact children's wellness and the overall budget for 2023-24 and may represent a pivot point for the families in the Boyertown area, in my opinion. One is pandemic response and protocol moving forward and assessing backward. It is clear now that the government, federal and state, bureaucrats, not scientists, silenced experts who through their research ascertained the following. Lockdowns were counterproductive. Schools should not be closed or virtual, and children should not be subject to universal mask wearing. Dr. Jay Bhattacharya in March of 2020 reported this as a Stanford researcher on public health and pandemic response, and he was deplatformed. I can name hundreds of doctors myself, deplatformed and censored. These practices lead to my second point, the scientific physiological brain development. So many areas of children's complex brains have been negatively impacted, and all should be discussed. Socialization, communication, hands-on learning, but none more than the frontal prefrontal cortex, which is the area of the brain that develops your executive decisions. These are your life decisions. They are critically important. This area of the brain is not fully developed until our 3rd decade. So whether a child is 4 or 6 or 16 or 18, from the educational community standpoint, science should lead. Now, if a parent at home has different ideas, rules, standards, that is their business. But the school bar should be set on the scientific principles: genetics, DNA, biology, physiology, human anatomy. I taught human phys and wellness for almost 20 years. That does not make me an expert. But we did in-depth teaching and learning about the brain and its function. I would suggest you not take my word on this. Do your own research. My third point is that in order the research be reported, debated, these important issues that impact all families in this district, whether they have children in the schools or just pay taxes to the budget and mission. All meetings should be in a venue that welcomes public debate and discussion. A school cafeteria or auditorium or the like. Discussion and debate in a town hall style would foster respect for others' opinions. No one here should be assuming negative about their neighbor. then we can move forward for the children. Thank you.
Stacy Stauffer?
Stacy Stauffer, Cobrookdale Township. I didn't know until tonight about the proposed 20 half days of school, and it looks like that's more for professional development reasons, and it kind of actually ties into what I was going to talk about tonight, which is I saw under the Department of Education the culturally relevant and sustaining education framework guidelines by the Department of Education. These objectives are to be integrated in educator preparation and continuing professional development, which is what the half days, I guess, were for, programs no later than the 2023-25 school years. And I just wanted to highlight some of the objectives on the PA Department of website to be incorporated in these development days that our children won't be in school for. It's not all of them, but I just wanted to highlight a few. Number one, reflect on one's own conscious and unconscious biases. Number two was another one, believe and acknowledge the microaggressions are real and take steps to educate themselves about the subtle and obvious ways in which they are used to harm and invalidate the existence of others. Understand that they, like everyone, can unknowingly adopt societal biases that can shape the nature of their interactions with groups and individuals. Another, design learning experiences and spaces for learners to identify and question economic, political, and social power structures in the school, community, nation, and world. Number five was another one, disrupt harmful institutional practices, policies, and norms by advocating and engaging in efforts to rewrite policies, change practices, and raise awareness. I mean, they didn't go on to say like what the institutions were and the norms they want to change. Number six, reflect on their own life experiences and memberships to various identity groups, race, skin color, economic status, ability, level of education, sexual orientation, and religion. And I wanted to know, will these objectives be incorporated in the elementary social emotional learning standards, and how will these objectives be incorporated at BASH within the curriculum itself for both elementary and secondary students? Thank you.
Joe Kincaid? Is he here? I assume Joe's not here, so we're going to move on.
Are we allowed to make a comment right now, or do we have to wait till our person? No, I just, because of public speaking. That's all right.
Board comment.
Okay, a couple things. Thanks, Patty, for the presentation. You listened exactly what some of us are asking. I would like to make a comment about our right to knows. Basically, this year already, there's been over 200, and I will say that the Kincaid family has 128 of them. So what I'd like to, and then Mr. Amy has 15. It just seems, but this is approximately $20,000 that could go to our students instead of, nothing against Mr. Sultanic, to you. Also, we're taking, and I don't know how much the time would cost for Mrs. Kramer. Sandy's, that's all she does. You call in, she's working on a right to know. So if people would just use some common sense, most of the answers are right in our policy. They're just too lazy to look them up. Basically, I want to also let people know, because there's been questions about reviewing the instructional materials for the parents and the students. If you do go to policy 105.1, there is a formula there for any parent or any student to see what their curriculum is beforehand. You're allowed to request that, so it's not a closed book. some people were thinking that there was nothing that they could do and we needed to change that policy, but it's already in there. And like I said, it's 105.1. You can look up, it explains the procedure, and you're allowed to use that once a semester. So any questions you have there. I want to thank BMBL for the presentation tonight. We don't realize what some of these groups do, the Rotary, this group, it's phenomenal. That ballpark is going to look as good as our senior high ballpark, and I remember the money that I was asked to give back then when Mr. Speck put that together. So it's proud, and we'll probably have more tournaments being asked to play here, so that'll be additional funds for the school district. And at this point, I don't have anything else to say. Thank you. Everybody, Happy New Year.
Ruth, you're up.
I want to thank Mr. Roth too for giving us a presentation on Mackey Field. I was very impressed. I didn't know half of the things that he let us know tonight, and I'll be sure to look at their website. And off to the board. We're starting off a new year, and I sincerely hope it'll be a great year for the students. Some board members have lost sight of why we're here. We are here for the kiddos and to work collaboratively as a team of 10, not micromanage. It's not our job to schedule bus stops nor check how often vendors under contract perform their services. That, my friend, is called micromanaging. If we ask to have our seat changed, we should not blame the solicitor. That's called a lie. One should apologize so we can get on. Until we can make a clean slate of all the problems this board has, the children again will be left out. The board is so divided not just by numbers, but by beliefs. We should show love, honesty, truth, and respect. Some of us also need to learn confidentiality. Some need to learn respect for administration. By working together, we can accomplish this. We should be talking about increasing our PSSA scores, how education will be administered in the future, what happens if we get another pandemic of sorts. There are 4 things you can't get back in life: a word after you say it, an opportunity after it's missed, time after it's gone, and trust after it's lost. For more than 25 years, Pennsylvania taxpayers have been paying charter school tuition rates that far exceed their actual cost. They advertise on TV, they do lavish field trips, and our local public school funds, tax dollars, are being used to pay for these extravagant things. No one asks any questions. Despite calls for reform, the General Assembly has not done anything to address it. Perhaps this would be a project for our board to work on instead of trying to micromanage. Let's try to be helpful instead of hurtful. We are Boyertown. Thank you.
Yeah, I too would like to thank Mr. Rath for his presentation. I've ran on that field myself. My kids have played on that field, and to see the transformation is going to be quite exciting to see the future kids on that same field. Thank you, Ruth, for your comments. Happy New Year, everybody. And that's all I have.
No comment. Sorry. So I'll be pretty short. I agree with Ruth about the charter school tuition rates. It's a serious problem, and she is 100% correct. That a lot of public funds go to the privatization of schools, and it's seriously impactful on our budgets. And it is something that we should be educating ourselves about and advocating about. So I actually have some information that I'll be sharing with the board, just about some various things I looked into that I found quite concerning and really angered me as a taxpayer. Also, just on a really positive note, this weekend I will be going with the Bash chorus to New York City for a trip to see them play, or I guess sing, at Carnegie Hall. Yeah, it's super exciting, right? So I'm super excited about that. So I'll report back and let you know. I'm sure it's going to be utterly fabulous, but it's very exciting. So that's all. And Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Panarella, I know I talked to you at a previous meeting after it was over about meeting of the board with Mr. Sultanic like we used to do after everybody got elected on the board. I would like to propose that we do that ASAP because some of the things I've heard tonight I'm not happy with. And the professionalism of some people is very concerning. So if we could get that on board with Mr. Sultanic like we used to do. I think it used to be every year or every 2 years, Jeff, I'm not sure. I found my old book from 2014.
We used to do it every municipal election year when new people got elected to the board. We will need to, just as an aside, have a board discussion on our upcoming labor contract negotiations, so we can talk to the board leadership and the administration about coordinating something.
Thank you.
No comment now.
Well, thanks, Scott, for coming out. My oldest played at Mackey. It looks like it's going to be amazing. Hopefully my younger guys will get into baseball again so I can have a reason to go there. Thank everybody for coming out tonight. We are trying to get venues. If people ask for us, we go to the venues. If the schools don't ask for us, we don't go out. So that's why it's here tonight. It's a new year. Hopefully we could all work together. You've seen, obviously, there's some discord amongst the board. Hopefully we can figure that out and get us moving in the right direction. Thanks for coming out. Happy New Year.
Motion to adjourn.
Our upcoming meeting dates are January 24th, which will be here. That is the Board of School Directors meeting. February 14th, we will be meeting at Boyertown Elementary School. And then we have a meeting February 28th, and we will also be meeting in March and April at 2 additional elementary schools. So we are scheduled out for the remainder of the year. May and June will not be at school buildings because it'll be the end of the school year, and I hate to say that already, but, and then we'll work on setting board meetings for the following year, within our buildings. Okay?
Motion to adjourn.
It's a lot of motions.